Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're listening. This is the Fantasy College Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Tony DeMarco. We're back after a long hiatus from last season, starting in week 2 this week. And of course, as always, I'm joined with my co-host, Todd Chapstick. Todd, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm a little tired, but I'm ready to talk some wrestling.
I don't know what it is, but I saw online somewhere, someone's like, is time getting faster somehow? It just seems like you blink and it's 5 minutes off the clock. And I know we just had daylight savings where you fall back, which is kind of nice, unless you have a 4-year-old like I do that still gets up at what used to be 7 o'clock is now 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had week 1. A lot of weird kind of fun results, duels, tournaments. We saw some upsets. We saw some power moves through some tournaments. Sonny Sasso basically pinned everyone at the Southeast Open. Pinned everyone within a 5-mile radius, it seems like. I know Jagger's got him on our fantasy wrestling team, so he's pretty happy about that result. But so I thought we would kind of just get right into it. Let's talk about some of the top performers from last week. Something we'll feature, every week. We'll just talk about best performers, tournaments, things like that. We'll take a look at the week coming up. This coming week, very tournament heavy. We got the Tiger Style Invite, Michigan State Open, Journeyman Classic, Wranglemania, which is more duels, but still kind of like a dual tournament type scenario thing. And then just a few other duels here and there, some good ones too. But let's first bring up our top 20. I did 23, I believe, wrestlers from last week. Like I said, we want to make this quick hit this year, so we're going to kind of let's see here. Of course, everything's going a little slow on that end. There we go. So we got the top 34 technically, because there was a tie towards the end. But as I was saying, Sonny Sasso basically pinned everybody at the Southeast Open. He ended up with 30 fantasy points, 5 matches. That math kind of checks out to me. Michael Beard didn't wrestle at the Princeton Open like all the other Lehigh wrestlers. He ended up going with Stanich and I think Brignola, who wrestled at 65, over to the Clarion Open. So he got himself a helmet and number 2 spot on the top fantasy wrestling list this week. Now, obviously, being this is week 1, the overall and the week 1 list is going to be the same. So no need to bring up any other charts or anything like that. Brendan Morgan, redshirt, true freshman, wrestled in the freshman sophomore division. Basically did the same thing, pinned his way, had a major, I think, in there, and he had one match that technically wasn't D1 caliber, so it didn't count. He finds himself at number 3. And the rest of the top 10 is basically Hokies and Buckeyes, except for Owen Treffin, who's now a backup to Isaac Trumbull, but he ended up powering his way through. I believe they were at the Battle at the Citadel tournament there and basically powered his way through to first place. So as you can see, this will be on an article coming out, as well as the fantasy wrestling forum on the internet forums. You can take a look at that. That's going to be updated weekly, and we'll have some fun stuff to do with that. Buzak is here, losing to teammate, where did he go? Davino at the tournament that they went to, Clarion Open as well. And Barraclaw comes in at tied for 28th at the end there. Had a good upset against Hunter Garvin.
Yeah.
Good match. So let's see here. We'll stop presenting there. And we're getting back into the swing of things here. It's been too long that we haven't done a podcast episode. So we apologize for any technical difficulties in the beginning. But let's get right into talking about this week. Like we said, there's a few duels on tap that are pretty good. Actually, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Was it West Virginia wrestled Glenville State? Technically doesn't count for fantasy because Glenville State's, I think, Division II. Is that right?
Yeah.
You were just saying your brother, one of his wrestlers, and beat somebody.
Hamid.
Yeah.
Hamid, who's bounced around a lot in his career. I think this is his 5th different college, but always been a good wrestler, very scrappy, great conditioning, and he beat the guy that won the Southeast Open last week from West Virginia at the dual meet tonight. So
I think, yeah, Bush, I think his name was.
Yeah, Bush.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Hammett, coming using his 7th year. I think his 7th year for the COVID year. So what the heck? He said, "What the heck? I'm going to wrestle," and it looks pretty good.
Well, they literally say if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
So might as well, if you got, I don't know about. We've been seeing all these 6-year, 7th-year guys coming back, and they might have it early on, but then when it gets to tournament time, they're kind of fizzling out a little bit, right? So I think we're right on the tail end of that COVID eligibility year. I think next year, or technically speaking, I don't know how many actually qualify for it, but technically next year is like the last year. Next year or 2027 is the last year that you could possibly ever have some type of eligibility from the COVID year.
Yeah.
And somehow Gable Stevenson will probably still try to come back in 2028 or something like that. After he goes to Canadian football or something like that. But let's get right into week 2 here. Like we said, there's a bunch of tournaments here. We got the Tiger Style invite, Michigan State invite, Journeyman Classic, which is kind of like a pool style tournament.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that I'm missing off the top of my head here. But we got some really good duels coming up too. Stanford travels over to Iowa, wrestles Iowa State and Iowa. Oregon State and North Dakota State are going to be pretty good. Dual Cal Baptist and Campbell at the Wranglemania in Bethlehem, as well as Arizona State, Illinois is going to be wrestling.
Yeah, I think the Iowa duel with Stanford is going to be on the Big Ten Network.
It should be. I would think so.
Yeah.
It's at Iowa, so they probably have first dibs on that. And I would doubt something that big with the 2 high-ranked teams like that they put it on BTN Plus, but they've done stupider things.
Yes.
Well, Big Ten's actually pretty good about marketing their good duels and everything like that. Let's see here. So starting at 125, as I said for probably the umpteenth time, lots of tournaments this week. We're getting a lot of good information on entries into these tournaments, but there's still some teams missing out. Like, for instance, for the Journeyman Classic, it says that Penn State's going. A partial lineup for Penn State is going. Not sure exactly right now who that is part of that partial team. It also lists Oklahoma State. Don't know any of those guys yet. Still working on that. So, as we'll say at the end, check the Intermat forum, check the Fantasy Wrestling page. We'll have the updates. I'll put it out on Twitter as well. Make sure you're following at Fantasy D1 Wrestle with the notifications, so you know how to get into your team and update that before anybody else and win the week. So 125, we're looking here. And Todd, who do you like at 125 from the information that we currently have?
Like I said, you're definitely. I like the Journeyman Classic because you're going to get like probably three guaranteed matches. So like Aiden Smith from Rutgers, I kind of like him at the Classic.
True freshman, hearing good things.
Yeah. Dean Peterson, maybe even same team. I think he's going to Wranglemania, right?
I think he's doing Wranglemania. I think Rutgers is only bringing a select few to the Classic. I think they're wrestling their whole team for the duels. They have Duke and Franklin and Marshall. No disrespect to them, but Rutgers should be able to kind of mow through them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then I think there's just a few guys that are listed from the team. Aiden Smith, I think Soldano, we'll get to him. I think he's listed as a guy for the Journeyman Classic.
Yeah. And Jacob Camacho and NC State. I don't know. They have him for Wranglemania and Journeyman. I don't know if he'll do both, but he'll probably do one of the two.
And I should mention Journeyman, again, it's a pool style, so they usually get 3 matches.
It's two or three, at least two.
At least two or three matches, possibly a fourth if it's crowded and they kind of do like a championship kind of thing. But they'll have like pool A, B, C, and D, and then they'll like cross bracket pool A and C and all that. You kind of don't know what it's going to be until the day of. So on Tornaflex, I think it's hosted by. So right now, these are kind of shots in the dark. These are good wrestlers. These are guys that we have confidence in to score points. Now, it could be that they get thrown into, as they call it in FIFA, the group of death. And you got 3 out of the top 5 ranked guys in your group. It just happens that way. But be sure to check in and maybe you can switch them out real quick. Journeyman Classic, we'll stick on that for a second. Cornell is going to be there as well. Cornell's got Greg Yakamahalis, who's manning the 125 spot for them. And then who else was I looking at? Diego Sotelo, a classic fantasy wrestling staple around these parts. He's going to be at the Journeyman Classic too. I think him and Unger last year were met in the finals of Journeyman. So Unger now moving up to 133. We'll see him on this list soon. Figueroa should be wrestling. He didn't last year at Wranglemania. What kind of we'll just kind of put it out there. What kind of schedule do you think Figueroa is going to wrestle? Obviously he was hurt last year. He had his ups and downs. He lost to Maximo Renteria, I think, in the was it the tournament or maybe the duel before the Pac-12 tournament. Is he going to have an up and down year, do you think, or does he ride that wave of being a national champion and kind of sticks to how he was that true freshman year when he redshirted?
I think he was hurt most of last year until towards the end of the season. I think he'll be fine this year. You can obviously see the talent is there when he's healthy. So winning the NCAA title, so I think he'll be really good this year. I don't see him taking all those early season losses like he did last year. I think that was mostly due to injury.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, he's a bonus point monster when he is healthy, so he is a definite start if you got him. And let's see, Charlie Farmer takes over for Ethan Bergen, who's up at 33. That he's going to be facing the Citadel and Gardner Webb. I like him with projected +7 there. Ben Mon from George Mason has Bloomsburg. When putting this sheet together, I always like to take a look at the competition, past history, do cross-referencing, things like that. I think his opponent, again, no disrespect, but not that great. So I have it as a decision, a +3. Could definitely be more than that. Ben Mon from George Mason. And then Maximo Renteria beat Cale Peterson last week from Iowa. I have him against North Dakota State +3 as well. 133, we're looking at, let's see, Wisconsin's going to be at the Michigan State Open. I always get these two guys confused. They're right next to our list too. Zan Fugit from Wisconsin, and then Zeth Romney from Cal Poly. For some reason, I always mix those two up. Maybe it's the Z's. You don't see a lot of Z names.
Yeah.
Other than like Zach. But Zan and Zeth both have tournaments. Zeth is going to be at the Tiger Style invite, have him as well as Braxton Brown from Maryland. Vince Santaniello from Pittsburgh is going to be at the Journeyman Classic. Pitt's going to the Journeyman Classic, not doing Wranglemania or anything like that. Who else do you like at 133?
We mentioned him before moving up, but I like Ethan Bergen at the Citadel and Gardner Webb. I think that's 2 bonus point victories for him. Mm-hmm. +8 maybe, plus maybe even more, but at least +8, I think, like two majors. Yeah,
he had a good match last week, and it's escaping me who he beat. It was somebody pretty good too. Why can I not remember that? That's going to kill me. But Kurt Phipps from Bucknell, they're wrestling Morgan State. I have him with a tech win there. Dominic Zaccone, Wranglemania. I have 2 decisions for him, making him +6, but obviously could be more than that. I think he was winning in the duel at the Daddy against Wyoming and got hit with that headlock at the end. Unfortunate headlock, but it was a beautiful headlock. Don't get me wrong, but it shouldn't have happened. So we'll kind of chalk that up to early season issues kind of thing. I forget if I did mention it because I'm all over the place already this early into podcasting season, but Wrestling Sense, our fun game fantasy website that we got. check it out, wrestlingsense.com. You can create a free account. You basically get fake money. You can make fake bets, play fake games, win fake money. That doesn't really go towards anything yet. That's still in the works, but at least it's something to do. There's no deposit required. You never lose any money. If your funds get below a certain amount, you get to watch a blank screen for about 30 seconds, and then it refreshes for more money for you to keep playing, stuff like that. So head over to wrestlingsense.com, create a free account, and some matches that we're looking at, starting with 133, Ethan Oakley and Brendan Ferretti from UNC and Navy, respectively. That should be a close one. That should be a pretty good match. And then we mentioned Stanford and Iowa State and Iowa this week. Tyler Knox versus Evan Frost at 133. Tyler Knox and Drake Ayala. Both should be pretty good matches.
That's a tough weekend for Knox.
I mean, he could really jump levels in the rankings with it. Ayala looked really good though against Oregon State last week. So we'll see how that goes. But both those duels should be pretty good. I think Iowa State's going to be missing a couple of guys. I don't think Panero Johnson. We'll get to 157 in a minute. I don't think Panero Johnson's going to be wrestling in there, and I think I'm not sure if Sudersky's down to 41 yet. But that should be interesting. But those will be 3 games that we'll have starting tomorrow. When you're listening to this today, Thursday, on WrestlingSense.com. 141. Who we got at 141 that you like, Todd?
I like Unger at the Journeyman Classic. I think he should do pretty well, even though he's bumped up a little bit of weight. I still like he could probably get 2 or 3 matches there. And Oliveri from Rutgers at Wranglemania.
Probably off a red shirt.
Yeah. I mean, like plus 6 or 7 probably for him for the weekend. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Moshe Schwartz comes back too from Oklahoma after an injury. He's one of those, again, like super seniors that still has eligibility from redshirting the COVID year, and I think some medical hardship there too. So he's wrestling against Air Force, coming back into the fray of starting a match. Usually you're not thinking it's going to be full bonus, full tilt at the moment. I have him +5. I think he slots right into it. I think he hits the ground running in that respect. Some games to look out for on Wrestling Sense. We're going to have Jaden Scott versus Joshua Coderhant. Coderhant had a close one with Anthony Santaniello, who we also have listed, who's wrestling at the Journeyman Classic. He almost lost.
Anthony
Santaniello. That was good. I don't want to say Anthony choked it, but choked it. He yeah, he let it get away from him more than I think Coderhant took it. But let's move on. The 149 Kai Bushins from NC State, Wranglemania. NC State's only got 1 match at Wranglemania. But that and the Journeyman Classic, they're basically sending all their guys there too. So starters, some backups, some red shirts as well. They're bringing a whole army basically over to Bethlehem, PA. For the Journeyman Classic, again, you got Bushins, but you also have Jackson Arrington, who is a red shirt for them as well. He's going to be wrestling there. Ethan Fernandez, EIWA 149 champ, I believe. Hopefully that's right. I think that's right. And Finn Solomon from Pitt is going to be there as well. So Wayne, Penn's actually at the Journeyman Classic too. I just waiting to see who's entered. They're usually pretty good about sending their whole team.
Yeah.
Places. They don't sit many guys unless it's, just getting guys some matches and stuff like that. Lachlan McNeil up at 149. How do you think he does this weekend?
Well, he looked good last week. I know he lost to Waters, but it was a good match. So I think he'll be fine at 49. I thought he was kind of big at 41, so it doesn't surprise me that he moved up a weight.
Is it me, or does it seem like more guys are kind of bumping up weights?
Yeah, I think it's smart. I mean, I think they're looking at what Penn State does, and Penn State's not the super weight cutters. They, Kale's like, yeah, get bigger and just work on your technique and get stronger. So I think a lot of other kids are like, hey, why am I going to keep killing myself trying to, cut 30 pounds off and not have any energy to wrestle when I can lose 15 pounds and have all my energy.
Keep it fun.
Even 10 pounds. Like,
No, it's no longer the John Smith going to recruit you at 152 and we're going to cut you down to 133 kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah, like we recruited you for 125. Yeah, but I gained 8 inches. I grew 8 inches. Well, it doesn't matter. You still have to make 125. Like, yeah, speaking of gaining weight, my brother Kyle's kid Mac Church went up to 165.
165. That
Yeah.
surprised the hell out of me.
His dad's pretty big, so it doesn't surprise me that he started getting bigger.
Yeah, but it's almost like you blink, and we were talking about time going too fast.
Yeah,
you blink from his true freshman year to now. He goes from what was he like one? Was he 33? I think
41.
He was 41. Okay, so 41 to 65. God damn.
Yeah, but he was killing himself to get to 41. I mean, he barely made 45 as a senior in high school. So
Yeah.
well, I don't know how they got him down to 41. Honestly.
So what would be a better name? Big Mac Church?
Yeah,
or
Big Mac. I like it.
Or Mac Cathedral?
I like Big Mac.
Big Mac.
He keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, it could stick. We'll make that a hashtag. We'll get that going.
Trivia question for you. What was
yes.
the original name of the Big Mac?
Royale with cheese. No. I don't know what.
The Blue Ribbon Burger.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That was on that History Channel food thing, was it? Yeah. Fucking I love that. But oh yeah, that's right. The Blue Ribbon Burger and everyone Ray Kroc wanted that.
And then he changed it to the executive.
Wasn't it like the secretary said Big Mac or something?
Yeah, she got a raise for saying that. She goes, "How about just Big Mac?" And he goes, "Well, somebody got a raise."
Oh, whole 5 cents an hour more back then.
Yeah. In like 1965.
Yeah. That's a great series. I love that. Well, being a fat guy, of course, I like anything that talks about food and those cooking shows and stuff. But the history of food on the History Channel is awesome.
Yeah, I like the show too.
Where are we? 149. So we were talking about good matches. Braden Bauer from Bucknell, Caden Cassidy against Bloomsburg. And then some matches we're going to have on Wrestling Sense. Jay Nabis and Anthony Echemendia. That should be pretty good. I got to think Echemendia is the favorite there, but Abbas looked okay this past weekend.
He's got to be in his 6th or 7th or 8th year by now.
He is. I think when you recruit some high-level recruits like Aiden Valencia that they got in the wings, who I think is listed as a probable possible at 141 this weekend. Sometimes when you recruit, things work out perfectly. It's setting up perfect for Stanford for Abbas to finish out his senior year, move on, and then Valencia to just slot right into 149, right?
Yeah.
But we'll see if that actually happens. Maybe he does really well. Maybe he stays at 141. Apparently, from what we hear, he's doing pretty well in the room, which then begs the question in this day and age with NIL and stuff like that, is it worth redshirting a true freshman anymore if they're taking out senior level guys nowadays in freestyle tournaments? But I guess it's up to the style of the coach and what they think is best for the team to slot the team in too. Like Penn State's going to have something like that. We were talking with our draft when I got Sealy. He fell to me. Where's Sealy going to fit in the lineup?
Yeah, I have no idea because he's a middleweight. He's not going to get any bigger.
You got Kasich, you got Messenbrink, Levi Haynes right there. Now Haynes has a red shirt available. Kasich has a red shirt available. Facundo is in there. We don't know what he's going down to 57. So does Kasich take his red shirt now? Facundo's already used his. Messenbrink's already used his from when he was at Cal Baptist. I mean, you got so many moving parts here. I don't know. It's Sealy gonna. I can't see Sealy being a backup the whole.
No, me neither.
So red shirt this year, and then I guess just fucking figure it out next year.
Yeah.
But sorry for the tangent on that. But Jay Nabis, Anthony Echemendia, that should be a good one. That's going to have a good line. And then Cannon Webster and Jesse Vasquez, who's moving up to 149. That's going to be at Wranglemania as well. 157, Meyer Shapiro is going to be at the Journeyman Classic again. Him and Dylan Evans from Pitt. Who else is going to be there? Ed Scott will be wrestling at Wranglemania 157 and Journeyman 157. Peyton Keller had kind of a scare last week, only winning his match by a point or two. I forget who he wrestled, but it was one of those matches where you're like, why? This shouldn't be that close, but it was pretty close.
He wrestled the Wisconsin kid, right?
Yes, that's right. Ohio beat Wisconsin. Who was it that he wrestled?
I don't know the weight. I don't know that weight class for Wisconsin offhand.
I mean, I don't know a whole lot of who's starting for Wisconsin either. They with Hamidi moving on and Amos seems to be injured and stuff. I mean, they got a lot of holes there. Let's see, Keller, he wrestled Luke Melcher, and won 8-7. He was down, I think, early in that match, and came back to win. So maybe he gets back on track. He's going to be at the Michigan State Open. Right now, what I see, he's probably the best guy that they got listed as an entry. And what do we always say? Just because they're entered doesn't mean they're going to be participating.
Yeah.
So
that happened to me last week. So
happens all the time. I don't get it. I feel like that's a money saver to be able to just put who's going to be wrestling instead of putting the fees for guys that aren't going to be wrestling. But, what do I know? Another true freshman, we were talking about Aiden Smith for Rutgers. Connor Harrer is for Rutgers going to be at Wranglemania as well. I have him with +7. I'm trying to see anybody else. DJ McKee is a decision machine. I have him +3 against Bloomsburg. Here's the thing. Gregor Chalakian. I'll get these names right one day. Beautiful pin last week in 19 seconds against, I think, the CSUB wrestler. He looks good. He looks like he's going to be a fantasy force, especially with the lower ranked guys. He's going to be a must start. But this week, he was slated to have possibly Pinero Johnson and Ja'Cory Teamer. Now, with the probables that came out from Iowa State, Pinero is not wrestling. So Gregor is a great pickup there to wrestle. But we don't know if Ratchie or if Teamer is going to be wrestling 157 for Iowa. Do you take the chance? Do you possibly net 0 or possibly, a pin and loss by decision that still nets you 3? Are you taking that chance? Or maybe even he wrestles Ratchie and maybe he beats Ratchie.
Yeah, I have him on my team, so I've been going back and forth if I'm going to start or not. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened with Teamer last week, why he was left behind in Iowa. So
I don't know.
Coach Brands didn't really say much about it, except that they're going to roll out the best lineup they can each week. So I don't know what the hell that means if you don't have the best guy in your at the weight going. So I don't know why that he would say that we're going to go with the best lineup if the Teamer is definitely your best option at that weight.
Right.
So,
and
I don't know what that meant.
Credit to Brands too for last week, because obviously the main event of that match with Oregon State was Buchanan and Munoz. Munoz being, I think he's ranked 5th, and Buchanan is 2nd behind AJ Ferrari in the internet rankings. Munoz had nothing to lose by wrestling Buchanan. Buchanan, first match back in a new singlet, we'll say, on the road, a 10 o'clock start basically out in Iowa or out in Oregon. He had everything to lose. He loses that match, he probably falls back a few spots. He might be up as the 4 seed come tournament time if he wins out. But credit to them for rolling out that lineup, having those two guys meet that early.
Yeah,
and hopefully they keep that going, that they don't sit anybody, they don't duck people. It's early, so there's still time to do that, but credit to Brands on that.
Yeah, Brands doesn't do that as much as some other coaches do with the ducking stuff, like certain coaches that I'm not going to mention, Tom Ryan. Yeah.
I don't know. I've been trying to go back and forth and try to see how you can try to make the regular season more incentive worthy for the tournament. without affecting the overall tradition and integrity of the tournament. You know, like I feel like we're on another tangent, but getting points from the regular season to add to your team total at NCAAs, I feel that that's not worth that. That gets rid of.
I don't like that, but I do think that ducking some of your competition should drop you in the seeding for the NCAA tournament,
like a prestige point type of thing. Yeah, but it's got to be more complicated than that. We'll get Wrestling Pirate on it to try to figure something out.
Yeah, not on the same tangent, but about ducking and stuff. I was looking at Penn State's schedule again. Like, nobody on that team is ever going to get anywhere close to the win record. Wrestling like wins, 16 matches a year.
100 wins isn't worth it anymore. I mean, they got certain sleep schedules and they got food intake monitoring, and they have the sports psychology. They have all this stuff that they didn't have 20 years ago, where people wrestled 35 matches before getting into conferences.
But even just a couple years ago, I think Jason Nolf has the win record right now. So he just graduated like 4 or 5 years ago. So
yeah.
But all of a sudden, Penn State has really lowered the number of matches that they wrestle.
They don't wrestle tournaments really. They go to the Black Knight Invite. They'll do the Journeyman Classic, which is more of like a pool thing. So I guess maybe it's not as wear tear. You know, you're waiting around all day. It's usually pretty good. Starting about like 9 o'clock and being done by 2 o'clock. You know, it's pretty quick like that. They go to collegiate duels typically, which is a good dual tournament with good competition there. Within 2 days, you're wrestling 3 good teams, basically. Yeah. Other than that, they don't go to Vegas. They don't go to Southern Scuffle anymore. They don't go to any of the other holiday tournaments or anything. They might send some guys to Midland. No, Iowa usually sends guys to Midlands. Yeah, they don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
but they don't. The problem is they don't need to. They keep winning, so there's no incentive to.
Not that I would ever question Kale's judgment at all, but if you were a coach, wouldn't you want your team to at least do one multiple day weigh-in tournament during the year?
Yeah, you would think, but again, it's been working for them. You don't hear of guys missing weight that often anymore, but yeah, I mean, you'd like to do like a 2-day tournament just to get your body conditioned to it. How do you do it? If there's an issue, let's nip it in the bud here rather than in March.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Especially
it is hard. That second day weigh-in is you got to keep your weight down pretty much for the whole day that you're wrestling, so that you don't balloon your weight up, so that you can still make weight the next morning.
What was it last year with Aaron Brooks, weighing in? Or no, that was for the Olympic trials or something, wasn't it?
I think so.
Where he was like he had wrestled. It ended at like 9 p.m. and then he was running until like 1 a.m. and then had to wake up for 7 o'clock weigh-in or something. It was something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
I think that was more freestyle. Freestyle's stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. My nephew used to do that when he was wrestling at 106. He would get home from the Powerade tournament at 9 o'clock at night and then have to go right to the wrestling room for 3 hours to cut weight to get back up in the morning so he could make weight again.
Yeah.
Because you eat and you drink just a little bit and you're 5-6 pounds over all of a sudden. So
yeah,
it's like a sponge.
Maybe that's why again they go more towards your natural weight more than having to cut those 10-15 pounds, and you're like a sponge with one drop of water just puffs you up.
Yeah,
like that. But let's get back on track here. 165 Derek Fields I have at Wranglemania, as well as Journeyman Classic. Michigan State Open is going to have Northwestern there. Chris Cannon, as we showed you, at 133, 141, still debating where he's going, was not listed. So obviously if that's changing, we'll let you know. But Max Mayfield from Northwestern going to be at Michigan State Open. Garrett Thompson, here's the thing. He wrestled, he slated in at 165, wrestled 174 in the duel last week against Wisconsin. I don't know what weight he's going. I haven't gotten clarification on 65 or 74. So if you are going to use him, he does have a good matchup at whether it's 67 or 65 or 74. I would keep him in the floater spot. If you definitely need to use him, use one of those floater spots. That obviously, if you know your rules, which is one of the Tony tips, is know the rules of your league. The floater spot doesn't matter what weight he wrestles. As long as he wrestles, he gets points against D1 competition. Yeah. If you put him at 65 and he wrestles 74, does not count. Gets no points. So I would say keep him in the floater spot until we can solidify what weight he's going to be going. Yeah. I've been really high on Luka Wick ever since his true freshman year. He's been kind of one of those plug and play guys that I get in and out of the season. He's going to be at the Tiger Style invite. We're still waiting to see who else is going to be there. But right now, I think he's a good pickup if you don't have anybody else at 165. What about Nico Ruiz from Arizona State? He looked good last year in his redshirt year. I hear good things. I have him at +8. Do you think that's too high, too little?
No, I think that +8 is 7 or 8 is probably what he's going to get this week at Wranglemania.
Mm-hmm. I think who they had. They got Arizona State has, I think, like Buffalo and Illinois. So I think,
I don't think anybody's really going to challenge him too much.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll see. Arizona State, I think, is supposed to be at Journeyman 2. Or I mean, they're going to be up there, so they might as well send some guys there. I haven't seen who they're sending there either.
Yeah, it makes it hard to put in your lineup if they don't put their roster in.
Right. I mean, I would think that's icing on the cake at this point. If he had two tough if these guys have two tough duels at Wranglemania and then they're going into Journeyman where they could maybe lose 2 of the 3 or something like that, you're not going to have a good time. But if they're going to win out in, say, their Wranglemania matches, it makes it a little bit easier to have them, even if you don't know that they're wrestling in
right,
to net some positive points. Gunnar Flipowitz made the top 20, I believe, last season. Top 20 at the end of the year at 165, or was he at 174? I forget. He's got the Citadel and Gardner Webb. Throwdown in Yorktown, because you know the rhyming and alliteration that wrestlers like to have with their tournaments. Noah Mulvaney from Bucknell, he got pinned last week. Very not like him. He was a fantasy force last year. I have him as +6 this week. He's going to get revenge. He's going to have 0 points coming in. That's what I'm projecting. He's going to get a pin. He's going to offset that pin from last week. He's going to be at net 0. Basically going to start the season off 2 weeks in. And no Julian Ramirez that I can see from the entry list. I'll let you know if I see something else there. But I did not see Julian Ramirez listed for Cornell being at the Journeyman Classic. All other starters looked to be there. Did not see Julian Ramirez.
Yeah.
For WrestleSense matchup, for line, I have Hunter Garvin and Michael Caliendo. I think Caliendo, when it goes to tiers, I think you have Messenbrink number 1. I think Caliendo right now is kind of in a tier on his own, and then it's everybody else. 3-4 guys maybe at 65. But I think Caliendo kind of sets himself above everybody else.
Besides Messenbrink.
So yeah. I haven't run through the numbers or anything like that, but I'm going to assume Caliendo is going to be the favorite in this, obviously, by a decent margin. He looks really good from last year into this year. He puts points up.
He looks good against everybody except for Messenbrink.
Yeah, and he kept it close for a while.
I thought he got teched the last time they wrestled.
Teched or majored. You got to incrementally. You get better, right? Closing the gap, as Stutzman says. If you know, you know. 174, Simon Ruiz from Cornell. He's going to be at Journeyman Classic. And Luca Augustine will be at the Journeyman Classic as well. Who else do you like at 174?
I like Jackson Turley from Rutgers. I think he could get +6 or 7.
He's going to add those 2 matches, Duke and Franklin and Marshall. I didn't see him listed for Journeyman Classic. But yeah, +6, +7, +8, maybe. Yeah. He's coming back for a senior year. He said I think there was an interview where he said he wasn't going to come back if he didn't think he could possibly win it or at least, AA again. So that's the good mentality to have, especially since he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to hear from my.
You want to go out on a high note, not a low note. So
right, exactly. let's see other notes. I didn't see Adam Kemp listed for Cal Poly for the Michigan State Open, and I didn't see Chris Foca listed either. I think I forget who said it or where I heard it, but I think Chris Foca is going to be a second semester guy. So if you have them, if you're stashing them on your bench, just know probably until those holiday tournaments, you're not going to be using them. I forget what tournament they usually go to. Do they go to? They might go to collegiate duels, but I'm not sure if that counts as first semester or second semester.
Yeah, Cornell. Did they go to the Cliff Keen?
Yes, yeah, they go.
Yeah.
So
that's first semester, though, right?
That's still first semester, so I don't think Folk is going to be there for that one. Then, if he's second semester, got a bunch of matchup lines here that look good on the surface. We'll see when it actually happens. Joshua Algunsanya transferred from Columbia to UNC. I don't think he wrestled last week, but I have him going against Josiah Queen from Drexel, who just won the ESU Open, and then against Danny Wask, also from Navy. So those are two good lines. Lorenzo Norman against MJ Gatan, and Lorenzo Norman versus Nelson Brands. Nelson Brands will probably keep it to
1-0.
1-0. It will be a 2-1 match probably. And watch, because we say that, it's going to be about a 17-12 match that happens. And then Danny Bronigal and Brevin Casella. Bronigal from Illinois, Casella from Binghamton. That should be a pretty good match too. There. 184. Let's see. Who do we got at 184, Todd? Who do you like?
I like Fishback from NC State, obviously, because I have him on my team, but he's also a really good wrestler.
A little biased, but I get it.
I don't know if he's going to do Wranglemania and Journeyman, but he'll do one or the other and probably get a lot of bonus points. So,
Soldano is also listed to be at Journeyman and Wranglemania, and so is Edmund Ruth. Now, the thing is, like I said, the way that they work this out, it might be a group of death where all three of these guys are together. It may also work out that each one is in their own group with other 184s, where they will basically feast instead of famine. So it really depends on, but you got to have, it's like when you draft Saquon Barkley, you draft the top ranked guy. You're not sitting him because it's a tough defense. You're going to play him.
Yeah.
That's your best option. So I think if you have Saldana, if you have Edmund Ruth, if you have Fishback, they're all around the same, I would say, tier, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to, if you have them on your team, I say run with it, especially since you got Wranglemania and Journeyman Classic for all three of those. Jackson Smith has looked good. He's down a weight. He was at 97 last year. He's at 84 this year. Have him at the Tiger Style Open. Reese Heller is going to be at the Journeyman Classic only. So that's also another one that gets thrown into that grouping.
Yeah.
Up top. And then DeAnthony Parker, Malachi Duvall. Some guys +4 I have listed there for them from Oklahoma, George Mason, respective. Let's see, 197, Zach Bronigal. Same thing, Wranglemania and WrestleMania. Wranglemania and Journeyman Classic. Who else do we have here at 184?
Or 197.
197, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Max Stout from Pitt, I like. He's really good, especially against unranked wrestlers or lower ranked wrestlers. I think he'll get some bonus points.
Should be good. Yep. And I'm not sure if they would have him in the same pool as Bronigal either. So yeah, like you said, I think he'll do well there. Got to get a shout out to my former college coach's son, Dylan Bechtold. He's going to be wrestling Morgan State. He's a starter for Bucknell. Have him as +5. So, Coach, if you're listening, I got you. Trey Munoz with a bounce back match. I think he gets +5 against his North Dakota State opponent as well. Wrestling 10's matchups. Cade Lott versus Michael O'Malley. UNC versus Drexel. Michael O'Malley moving up to 197. We'll see how that goes. And then Nick Stemmet and Christian Carroll making his Iowa State debut against Stemmet, who faced AJ Ferrari last week after that trash talk back and forth kind of thing that they had. So we'll see how that goes. Pretty tough start to the season for Stemmet, I would say, but we'll see. We really haven't seen Christian Carroll wrestle that much, and especially at 97.
Yeah.
Either. So that's something to look forward to. And finally, 285. Who do you like at 285 here?
Dayton Pitzer from Pitt. He kind of had not a great year last year after having a pretty good freshman year.
I want to say he was injured. He got injured early or something like that.
Yeah, he didn't look the same.
Before.
I think if he's healthy, he'll be back in like the top 8, top 10 rankings. So I like him at the journeyman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Treffin's going to be there too, so that could be a pretty good matchup. Again, Treffin is the backup to Trumbull. I didn't see Trumbull listed in the journeyman classic, so maybe he's just doing Wrangle Mania. I don't know. I haven't gotten that information yet. So we'll have to see about that. Trevor Tinker, I have listed for Cal Poly at the Tiger Style invite. He teched Jason Bullock or Jacob Bullock from Indiana last week, which is a very surprising result. I thought that was going to be a very close match. He ends up winning 17-1 in just under 4 minutes in that one. So I didn't see the match. I didn't watch the match. I just saw the result and said, oh, damn. That's not the Tinker I remember from last year, but we'll see. Maybe he's one of those guys that makes the jump. This is his junior year too, so it's not like it's a sophomore jump or something like that. He's been around since 2021, so he's got that COVID year. This is going to be his 1, 2, 3, 4. This is his 5th year already. He's still got one after this, technically. If you jeez. Aiden Gutteridge from UNC is going to be against Drexel and Navy. The Navy starter Ferrer, I think his name was listed earlier in the season. I don't think he's there any longer. So, I mean, that opens up a great opportunity for Gutteridge to get some bonus against the Navy backup who's now forced into the starting role. I have him +7, could be +8 too. And then you got Lucas Stoddard from Army, who I have wrestling 2 matches, have him as +6. Brett Maurer from Oregon State, I think he wins bonus against his North Dakota State match. And then Slavakuski from Rutgers coming back for his super senior year. He is a master of getting decisions, but I think he gets a bonus in this one, so he gets at least +7 on that. Like I said, I wasn't sure about Trumbull wrestling in the Journeyman Classic, but I'm going to chalk him into the Wrestling Sense lines, have him and Tay Gadiali wrestling. That should be a pretty good match.
Yeah.
There, Colton Schultz and Luke Luffman wrestling. Colton Schultz has kind of been the immovable object when it comes to matches. I don't see super high scoring any longer. It's kind of, kind of like his Greco matches, 1-2 moves, and he's going to get you. So I have Colton Schultz and Luke Luffman and Corey Day from Binghamton as another line that we'll be making on here. But that kind of runs through our week 2 breakdown here. Like I said, keep an eye out, keep our notifications on for our Twitter at Fantasy D1 Russell. So that way, when we do have updates to tournaments, if there's additions, subtractions, new entries, people leaving, if we get any new information, you guys will be the first to hear it. It will be on the Intermat forum under the Fantasy Wrestling page as well. So, Todd, we're back. We're doing these podcasts again. We got to get back into shape and everything. But anything else for the good of the cause?
No, good luck, everybody, and enjoy wrestling on the second week of this season.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for clicking. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And good luck this week. We'll see you next week in week 3.
Hey, guys.